Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cooking from Quarantine. Today we're going to be making Spanakopita, which is a kind of Greek strudel savory cheese and spinach pie. It's completely delicious. It's not particularly easy to make, but it's so incredibly worth it. The flavors are just really wonderful. I got this recipe from one of my favorite cookbooks. This is the New York Times cookbook, the Craig Claiborne, when he was still editor of the New York Times cooking and food section. This is the New York Times cookbook from 1960. I got it at a used cookbook store in the West Village. I love this cookbook. It has really amazing recipes in it. It's sort of like kind of reading a time machine because it's there's questions in here like, where do I buy something as exotic as artichokes and, things like that. So there's, it's very cool, very retro. There's lots of old-fashioned recipes for cocktail parties like rumaki and, just things that aren't served anymore. But the Spanakopita recipe, which in this book is called spinach feta strudel, because they had to, this is before people just kind of use the correct words for things. So this recipe holds up and is great. I'm going to be making a few substitutions along the way, which I'll tell you about as we go, but let's kind of introduce our ingredients first. So it is a spinach and feta savory pie, and so obviously we need spinach and feta. Spinach, I'm using about a pound and a half of spinach. You can use a pound, 2 pounds. I mean, kind of like even if you were to buy 10 pounds of spinach, doesn't it still wilt down into like this much spinach? Yes. So I'm using like roughly a pound and a half. Feta, we're using half a pound of feta cheese. Feta cheese is a salty, sharp, washed rind, usually sheep's milk, sometimes sheep and goat milk, Greek cheese. It's salty, it's a little grainy, it really packs a punch. A little goes a long way. So we're using half a pound in the entire casserole. I have 5 scallions that I've chopped up into small pieces. The scallions do not get cooked. We want them to remain crunchy and to have like a kind of bright, springy flavor. We have an entire bunch of dill that I've broken down and chopped. The dill in this recipe, it really just it mellows the feta, it brings out the spinach. It's just a great combination of flavors. I have 1 large Spanish onion that I have finely chopped this is a dice, it's kind of like a messy dice. We have 4 eggs, phyllo dough, which is the most important part of the recipe. I used one that had been sitting in my freezer forever. I require a lot of these when I make this because I accidentally tear like all the phyllo dough because it is not easy to work with. If you're better in handling tissue thin pastry than I am, like maybe you won't need that much, but I am certainly using the whole thing of this, and I will probably wish I had more, but I don't, so we're just gonna make do with what we have. But this is phyllo pastry sheets, ultra thin. This is the same stuff that you make baklava with. It's very difficult to work with, and most real Greek people would be making their own phyllo dough. I can't even imagine how difficult that is. So when you use the box stuff, just make sure you take it out of your freezer and put it into your fridge the night before, and take it out of your fridge and put it onto the counter like an hour or so before you want to use it, or else it'll be really impossible to cook with. I'm using my favorite olive oil. Olive Oil Jones extra virgin olive oil. This is Spanish olive oil. I love this stuff, and you do want to use the most flavorful olive oil you have in the house for this dish because it's an important part of the dish. We're going to be brushing our olive oil onto every sheet of phyllo as we layer it, which is what's going to make it so crispy and delicious and fine. And so this has to be like real flavored. And look at the color on this. This green color is so gorgeous. So this is Olive Oil Jones olive oil. Use what you like. Extra virgin for sure. and we have salt and pepper. We also need a pastry brush or any kind of, I mean, this isn't a true pastry brush. Real pastry brushes are made with, I believe it's duck feather or goose feather, where there's just a feather on the end of this, and that's how delicate it is, that you're just like lightly brushing your phyllo as if you're like a Disney princess and baking a Greek pie. But we're using this little paintbrush. Whatever you do, just like wash whatever you're using really well. If you're using an old paintbrush, like I wouldn't recommend using an old paintbrush, maybe a new paintbrush. And like if you're going into like your makeup kit and looking for like your eyebrow brush and think that you're like, good luck to you, is basically like just wash it. Just wash it first is kind of always our motto. I don't know if I mentioned black pepper, 4 eggs, and then we have some cooking equipment that's absolutely necessary. The first is a casserole dish. This is a casserole. The way I'm making it is a casserole. Some people make spanakopita and they kind of fold it in on itself, and they make these wonderful little triangular like envelopes or envelopes. I'm not doing it that way. I'm making it casserole style. I find that this keeps better. It's kind of like, it's just easier to do. This is also a great way to be able to make it ahead of time. This is a great make-ahead dish. You would assemble all of the pieces together like the day before you need it, pop it in the oven, just like, how long? We're gonna pop it in the oven. Does it like not say how long this cooks for? Because that would be hilarious. Wow. Oh, bake 1 hour. Okay. So until brown and puffy. So yeah, so you pop it in the oven the hour before guests come. You take it out, it's done, and you didn't have to think about it or do anything. So it's a great make-ahead dish. So we're going to need our casserole dish, which we are going to, I'm going to oil it, but if you want to use butter, this recipe calls for butter. It doesn't mention olive oil anywhere. Using olive oil is more authentic. It's more flavorful. There's no reason to bring butter into this dish, especially with the way we've all been eating in quarantine. Let's like give ourselves a break where we can. So I'm using olive oil, but if you'd like to use butter, knock yourself out. You'll probably need at least a cup of melted butter to do this with, like at least. But we are going to grease this with olive oil before we use it. And then I'm going to be using my Le Creuset Dutch oven just to get the onions cooked down and the spinach wilted. But you can use, I mean, anything Teflon coated, any pan you have is perfect. I like that because I can throw all the spinach in at once. And since the sides are high, it allows me to just toss it in and it wilts down. I don't have to like do spinach management. So there we are. These are our ingredients. I've pre-chopped everything, so we are ready to just head on over to the stove and cook off some of these raw flavors before we start assembling our pie. Okay, so we're at our stove and we are putting on a medium heat under our burner on our pot. And we're going to be tossing a little bit of our olive oil into the bottom of the pot, just like a teaspoon. You don't need much. And we're going to grab our onions. We're doing our onions first so that when we wilt our spinach, we get that kind of onion flavor all mixed in together with it. Now, it takes so long to assemble this pie. I don't advise preheating your oven like anytime soon, but you will be preheating your oven eventually to 350, but I think we have plenty of time until we have to do that. So let's get everybody into the bath. And this is 1 large Spanish onion. You could use 1 large Vidalia onion. I don't recommend using red onion in this dish. First of all, it's like not particularly authentically Greek. Second of all, it's just that flavor is super overwhelming and you're using a lot of it. This is like 1.5 cups. So you just want to be able to chop it up because you want to keep thinking about the end result of what we're creating, which is this really delicate spinach pie. And so each each flavor we want to be able to taste separately, so we want things to remain crunchy, but we also want things to be small enough that when you take one bite, you're not getting only one flavor, you're getting every flavor in each bite. So you want to make sure everything is small. And let's just salt and pepper our onions. Remember, when we're trying to get things to sweat when we saute them and cook them down and get translucent, it's always good to add salt because it draws the water out of whatever we're cooking. A little pepper, just because we can never have enough fresh cracked black pepper. And we don't need to make the onions golden brown. We're just trying to get them translucent, because remember, this is going to cook for an hour in the oven. So, you know, the onions will cook, don't worry about it, but we just don't want the that really raw flavor. We want it to be able to be mixed in with the rest of the flavors we have going on. I love that this recipe uses dill. Most people also add parsley to this, and it would be one bunch of parsley. I didn't have parsley in the house, so I'm not adding it, but Italian flat leaf parsley would be perfect and more accurate, so if you have it in the house, throw it in. Let me show you how our onions are doing. See, we're just gonna let them get a little more translucent. And then we're going to start adding our spinach. Now, spinach creates an enormous amount of moisture when it's heated. Spinach is like mostly water. There we go. Spinach is mostly water. So when this is done cooking, we're going to be draining our spinach incredibly well. We want the spinach to be as dry as humanly possible. So that means if you're using frozen spinach for this dish, which you absolutely can, if you have frozen spinach in the house and you're like, what the hell do I do with all this frozen spinach? Why did I panic buy a bunch of frozen spinach for quarantine? Like, did I think I would need Popeye-like strength? And, you know, I mean, we haven't yet, but like, who knows what Cuomo will ask of us? So maybe we'll need it. If you're using frozen spinach, totally fine, defrost before you use, but drain those suckers like your life depends on it, because if this pie gets soggy, it's going to be gross. The whole idea of this pie, the beauty of Spanakopita is how crunchy it is. So any additional water that's in the pie is it's like pie kryptonite. So, okay, let's cook this down so that we can fit more in, because this is only 2/3 of our spinach. So yeah, if you want to use frozen, you can use a package of frozen spinach, at least one package, and just drain it super duper well, like not even just using a colander. I mean, put it inside a clean dish rag and wring that thing out. We're going to be using a colander because we've cooked all of this with our onions. You don't have to cook frozen spinach with your onions. You'll just throw it in. You just cook your onions down separately and add it to the whole mixture, the whole tara masalata, if you will, to make this even more Greek. It's one of my favorite Greek things also. I love Greek food. I love Greek cooking. I love Greek people. They're like warm and wonderful and very familial. It's like they're Jews, if Jews could like cook like fucking rock stars. And like we cook, but it's a different thing. Greek cooking is like really good. And maybe that's why I love Greek cooking so much. Okay, so that's a little more cooked down. Let's add the last bit of our spinach. So, you know, all the individual pieces that make up this pie, other than the phyllo dough, are actually super easy. Like, there's nothing complicated about sauteing up some onions and spinach. It's just the assembly of the pie that you need to be patient with. And I'm like not the world's most patient cook. And, you know, I'm very like cooks are cooks and bakers are bakers, but we're now like crossing this strange little territory of like, yeah, this is cooking and the final product is savory, but like we're using pastry in this. This is almost baking. So like it's a little outside of my comfort zone and my wheelhouse, but the good news is it's time consuming to put together, and when you're stuck in quarantine, you got time to make that spanakopita, yo. Okay, let's season this a little bit more. Remember, every time we add something in, we're gonna season, certainly more pepper. Salt, don't over salt this dish. Feta cheese is extremely salty. That's one of like the wonders of feta cheese. And actually, I had salted these onions pretty well, so I'm actually not gonna salt at this point. Okay, and remember, we are going to be cooking this for an hour in the oven, so everything doesn't have to be like cooked to hell. It just needs to be appropriately wilted. Look at how gorgeous that green color is on the spinach. It looks so alive in springtime. It's beautiful. Okay, so we are going to turn the flame off of our spinach and onion mixture, get it directly into a colander so that we can start draining off any excess fluid that might be there. And I will meet you back at the countertop so that we can assemble our spanakopita. Okay, so here's where the real fun begins, if you find torture fun. We're going to start assembling our spanakopita. We're going to drizzle a little bit of olive oil in the bottom of our baking dish, or you can grease it with butter or whatever you'd like. This actually does need to really coat every part of the baking dish, so don't be afraid to kind of get your hands in there, get dirty, because the better job you do of coating this dish, the better the spanakopita will turn out. I know this is like a pain in the ass step. I hate doing it too, but it happens to be really important to the process. Okay. The other thing we're going to do before we start is we're going to crack our eggs into what's becoming more of this mixture. I'm letting our spinach and onions cool and drain. I have my colander inside this bowl, and it's only been a couple minutes, but we already have that much fluid coming out, so let's just let that cool and drain. You do not want to add hot spinach and onions to the mixture that you're making, because we're putting raw egg into this, because it's kind of like we're making a custard, and we don't want to scramble our eggs accidentally. So we're going to let our spinach and onions cool, and while we do that, we're going to let our eggs kind of come up to room temperature a little bit, and hopefully by the time we're ready to start adding the layers of this in, number 3. Everything will be tempered appropriately so that we don't have a scrambled eggs spanakopita, because that is not the kind of fusion cooking that we like. Okay, so I keep trying to come up with ways to make phyllo dough easier to work with, and I haven't found it yet, because I just want to show you this, parchment paper thin dough. I believe this is actually 2 pieces and should be further split, but I'm not going to, because I want to at least show you. Look at, this is so thin. So I'm putting it on a Silpat because I thought that might help. And so what we're doing is taking a little bit of our extra virgin olive oil onto our pastry brush, and just like you would do if you were painstakingly painting the walls of your house, etc., we're going to cover this in a nice coating of olive oil. You don't want to use a ton, because you want to be able to lift this back up and put it into our baking sheet, but you do need kind of a lot. You want to make sure you get it on all the little corners, or it won't fluff up. The other thing I should say is you cannot substitute out pastry dough for this dish. This is phyllo dough. It's a different thing. So if you have puff pastry sitting in your fridge or in your freezer, you cannot substitute this out. This is its own special thing. If you have a specialty grocery store and you could get really, really good feta, I would recommend that because that would make all the difference. Okay, so we have one kind of crispy, it should not be this crispy and dry piece of phyllo dough that we are putting into the bottom of our baking dish. What you're really supposed to do to keep this a little nicer to work with and thinner and more malleable is you're supposed to put a barely damp dish towel on top of this kind of while you're working with all the pieces, but some people maybe have time for that, but I don't. Okay, yet another piece. So this is how we build our spanakopita. We're going to be putting down, I don't know how many sheets we have, but we're going to be putting down at least 6 sheets before we put any of our filling into the casserole. And so what we're going to do is 6 sheets filling, another 6 sheets filling. We're going to kind of see where we net out. I think we're going to have only 2 layers of filling, and then the top will be like, if you have some really nice phyllo sheets that you like haven't destroyed and crumbled, I would recommend saving those for the top pieces if you care about appearances, which like you should care. Okay, so just kind of putting these in the bottom of our baking dish, and so I'm going to repeat this step until I have 6 pieces in the bottom of my dish, and then I'll show you what else we're doing with our filling. All right, so we have 6 pieces of our phyllo, our oiled phyllo, laying in the bottom of our baking dish. I think the Silpat is actually working really great as a surface, so I'm going to remember that for next time. This is what the bottom of our baking dish looks like right now, just all layered together. So now let's work on the filling because we are ready for our filling. Where is the 4th egg yolk? I see that I cracked 4 eggs, but it looks like there's only 3 in here. That's so weird. We've got a phantom egg yolk issue. I see 4 eggshells. I know that 4 eggs made it in here. What? Okay, like, I guess welcome to Haley's Mystery Kitchen. This is so bizarre. Did I get a yolkless egg? Okay, let's mix all of this up and see how we're doing, because I guess it's possible we're adding 1 more egg into this because like someone came through and stole a yolk. Is that what's happening in these like difficult corona times? People just be stealing egg yolks out of your spanakopita? Bunch of savages in this town. Okay, so yeah, this is not eggy enough to create a custard. We're gonna add 1 more egg. So like this recipe calls for 4 eggs if you live in a safe neighborhood, and I guess 5 eggs. Whoop. Good, we get a little shell in there, a little fiber. 5 eggs if you live in a dangerous neighborhood where people come through and steal your eggs. What the fuck, guys? Okay, well, you know what? It's a thing that happened to us, but I think we'll manage. We'll get by. Okay, pour out the rest of that liquid. Get all of this, and see, we can use our hands to do it because it has cooled appropriately. Don't put hot food onto your eggs. You will scramble them. It will be upsetting. Okay, so now we're mixing all this together, and already it smells so good. The onion mixing with the dill, mixing with the feta, like, that's a serious flavor sensation. This is, oh, it smells so good. I do think dill is a very underutilized herb, so I'm very happy to be using it in this dish. It smells so good. I should also say that this is, for any of you who are unfortunate enough to have a vegetarian as a loved one, if you're looking for a dish that will really blow their minds and or just a really like sturdy, hearty vegetarian dish to serve at a party, this is a perfect one because it's super rich, it's super flavorful. It can be an entree. That's like how diesel this pie turns out to be. So if you're looking for a vegetarian option, Spanakopita is boss. Okay, so let's take about half of our mixture and start laying it out, flattening it out around our baking dish. And again, you don't want to mess with it too much because we're trying not to crack the phyllo dough or tear it or otherwise upset it, because it is kind of a very special snowflake and you don't want to see it angry. Okay. Is that half? Let's get like one more little scoopy doop. Okay. So there we have our first good layer. It smells so amazing. I can't wait to get this thing into the oven. This actually, speaking of oven, I'm now going to turn my oven on to 350. For some reason I thought it was 325. Make sure your the racks in your oven are the appropriate heights so that you can actually fit your baking dish inside. Okay, and now we're going to go right back to what we were doing before, which is taking one piece of phyllo dough, oiling this sucker up. It's actually a lot of fun to make Greek food for dinner parties for a few reasons. First of all, like I said, there are great vegetarian options. That trope from my big fat Greek wedding of like, what do you mean he doesn't eat any meat? Like, oh, okay, I'll make lamb, which is like a family favorite joke. I mean, it's true to the extent that like Greek dishes that have lamb in them are fucking awesome and like you'd be lucky to eat them. But also, Greek cooking uses a lot of fish and a lot of veggies, so there are wonderful vegetarian options. So it's really good dinner party food. And also the food is like, the flavors are so sophisticated and beautiful. I mean, look, we're using feta and dill. Those are really interesting, almost cerebral flavors to play with. They're really strong. They make your brain and tongue kind of think. See, just like making a bed. There we go. But the style of food is very playful. Like, I love making kefta kebabs because you get to like give people food on sticks at a dinner party. Anytime you can have people kind of play with their food at a dinner party, I always think makes the dinner party a lot more fun. And so with this, I would cook probably kefta kebabs because they're so much fun to eat. This is super fun to eat because, like, look at it. It's so fun to eat. And the crunch that it's going to make, you'll hear it when we crack into it after it's been baked, is actually, like, pretty impressive. It's sort of like when you crack open the top of a creme brulee and everybody's like, woo! It does the same thing. And I would serve a Greek salad with this, probably use more feta cheese, olives, Kalamata olives, tomato. See, it's torn, we don't care, just put it in. Some really good cucumbers, maybe a little fresh oregano if you have it, just those good, yummy, like big flavors I would use to make a Greek salad, just kind of roughly cut up. Hummus, baba ganoush, pita, all of that kind of stuff that's really fun to like dip and move. Those are great dinner party foods. Everybody always has fun when you serve foods like that. Okay, so I'm going to continue with 4 more, well, this and 3 more sheets of our phyllo dough, and then we're going to add the rest of this mixture on top. So we're just going to clean out the bowl, put the rest of it on top of the next of the 6 layers, and then we're going to do 6 more layers on top of that. So I'll show you what it looks like right before I pop it into our oven. So here we are before we put this into the oven to bake. I actually ran out of phyllo dough towards the end, so I don't have 6 layers, 6 layers, 6 layers. I have 6, 5, and 4. Because, you know what, shit happens, we're not professional chefs. And also, I know I said save some good looking phyllo for the top. I couldn't do that, mine's a little jacked. So, what we're going to do is create a little, like, design going through it. I'm going on the diagonal. And this is going to help let the, any liquid that's still in here, it's going to help it steam out during the baking process so that everything gets nice and crispy the way it's supposed to. So we're going to put this in the oven for an hour or until it puffs up and starts turning golden on the top. We're going to put this in uncovered. Don't cover it or else you're going to steam the thing and it won't come out crunchy. I'm going to probably check on it at 50 minutes just to make sure. Because if it is starting to, you know, everything that's in here except for the egg is already cooked, but like egg cooks really quickly. So if it's looking brown on the top, you can be sure it's cooked inside. This is, if you have your stove on a low enough heat, it will be fine. And you'll be able to tell because you'll see what the edges are doing. If the edges are like charred really fast and the middle is too light, your heat's up too high. So we're going to pop this in the oven for 50 minutes to an hour, and I will show you what it looks like when we're done. Okay, it has actually been an hour and 10 minutes because that's how long my spanakopita took to cook and to get golden and deliciously brown in the oven. This is super duper hot. It just came out, but it looks and it smells so incredible. So let's take a look at what it looks like on the inside, because really it's what's on the inside that matters most. It's so flaky, it's breaking apart so beautifully. Oh my god, and the cheese is all melted inside, and there doesn't seem to be like a sticking to the sides issue, which is very good. So that means we have appropriately olive oiled our baking dish. Trying to get all the way underneath. Here we go. Lift out all the layers at once. How do you like that, Spanakopita? That is a good looking little Greek pie. This is very hot. You could really smell the dill. The feta smells so good. And listen, or I guess to my microphone, it's so crunchy and crispy. Let's take a little piece. I don't advise eating it when it's this hot, but it smells so good. Mmm. That was my dog playing with her wacky ball in the background. This came out amazing. This like custard that's created with the egg and the cheese and the spinach is so good. The dill is so flavorful. And I mean, the crispiness of the phyllo dough is really wonderful. This is a magnificent dish. The olive oil, I mean, does it get better than this? Not really. So mine took 1 hour and 10 minutes to cook. I would let it sit on the table for a couple of minutes just to kind of like set up a little as a pie. But other than that, here we are. Oppa, it's a Spanakopita. So I hope you had a great time with us on Cooking from Quarantine. See you next time.